Yo, 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 what's happening, people? Okay, so it is time for another serious Sunday video. It's been a little minute since I've done one, so yeah, let me sit down and unload some things off of my mind. So I want to talk about music. I want to talk about the integrity, keeping it real, authenticity, all that kind of stuff in music. And real quick though, because it has been a little while since I've done one of these videos. Serious Sunday videos are series of videos that I do every whenever I do them. Not usually on a Sunday. Today is Saturday, although it might get uploaded on a Sunday. That waits to be seen. Well, we can only hope, right? But I'll sit in my car or sit in somewhere and just ramble about a particular subject for however long this video is, and that's pretty much what I'm going to do today. So I want to talk about music, keeping it real. There's a artists out there. There's a circle of artists out there, a section of artists out there that typically get accused or criticized for talking about things in their songs that they haven't done in real life. And I wanna talk a little bit about that today because this is not a new thing. People have criticized artists for talking about things they haven't done for, I don't know, the longest time, from as far back as I can remember anyway, for a really long time. And for a really long time, I can remember that my opinion on that sort of thing has always been, I've never seen it as a problem. An artist singing about something they haven't actually done. I've never seen that as an issue. I've never looked at a song as a way of informing me about the real life. Now, not to say that they can't, and some songs do, and that's fine. But it's not necessarily where I would go to if I wanted to learn something about the world. There's certainly things you can learn from a song for sure, and there's things you can learn from all forms of art. But fundamentally, when you listen to a song, it's less about whether it's real or not, and more about what does it do for you. And what's interesting to me is that it only really applies to music, and in particular, a certain section of music. Like in particular, it seems to be hip hop artists that get this a lot, or hip hop adjacent artists that get this a lot. Because when you watch a movie, nobody criticizes the writers and the directors as to whether they actually slaughtered hundreds of people in real life. Nobody criticizes the Wachowskis because they didn't unplug themselves from a matrix and take a blue pill and a red pill. No, nobody criticizes them for that. Nobody criticizes authors of books about the things they write about because they didn't do it in real life. It only seems to apply to hip hop artists or hip hop adjacent artists. It doesn't even really apply to other musicians, as far as I can tell. It's, there's plenty of musicians out there that talk about things they haven't actually done, that are not their lived experiences, and they don't get this criticism. Bon Jovi has songs about things that he hasn't actually done or hasn't actually experienced. Metallica have songs about things they haven't experienced. Alanis Morissette once said that in an interview. She said that most times when she says "I" in a song, she's talking about herself, but other times she's talking about other people, and not necessarily her own lived experiences. And this is fine. To me, this is fine. Art doesn't have to be real life. Art, it can be inspired by real life, and art can and often does imitate real life, but it doesn't have to be. Art ultimately, in its truest, most basic form, is a creative form of expression. And that means that it could be based on something that happened in real life. It could be based on something that can never happen in real life, and all in between. And there's nothing wrong with an artist talking about things that are not their own lived experiences. If they feel they can add something to it, if they feel they could talk about it in a different perspective, if in the end of it you can still take something from that song that benefits your life in a positive way, then what is the problem that they're talking about something that they haven't actually done? You know what I mean? And by the way, I know there are artists out there who try to convince you that they are living a particular life when they are not. I get that. I'm not really talking about those guys because that's just being fake. You know what I mean? Like, if it's in a song, whatever, right? If you're going out in interviews or going on your Instagram or whatever and trying to convince everybody that you're living a particular type of lifestyle when that's nothing to what actual life is, yeah, I ain't talking about that. But something in a song is like, so what if it didn't actually happen, or if it's not their own personal lived experience? That to me should not matter at all, because what do you get from it? Do you what kind of experience do you get from this song? Does it cause you to think about things in a different way, in a way that you might have never thought about before? Does it cause you to question things that you believed, and maybe wonder whether you really believe the things that you did believe, or whether it's just society that's controlling your mind? Does it cause you to really question yourself? Does it cause you to, or does it teach you something? Like I say, it's not necessarily the purpose, but it can happen. Do you learn something from it? Do you get something from the song that can benefit your life in some kind of positive way, or not? Do you hear the song and think, oh, that's complete trash? That these are things that are important when hearing a song, regardless of whether the thing actually happened to them or they actually did this thing. For example, let's say there's a song about selling drugs. Guys saying, yeah, I sell drugs and I kill fools or whatever, right? Right now, I'm not going to go out and start selling drugs and killing fools. Well, not yet, anyway. Times are hard, man. Times are hard. But yeah, I'm not going to go do that, right? But there are still messages in a song like that I think you could apply to your real life. The idea of doing something you don't want to do to get to somewhere that you do want to be. And I think we all kind of have to think about that sort of thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be that extreme, right? But we all have to think about that sort of thing as if when we got goals in mind, or things that we're trying to achieve or accomplish and trying to get there, and what you have to do to get there. And sometimes you got to do something you don't particularly want to do. Doesn't necessarily have to be something bad or immoral. It could be just maybe there's a job that you can do that could help you in your pursuit of getting this. A job itself isn't a bad job, you just don't particularly want to do it. You know what I mean? So you could take themes from a song and apply them to your own life in some way. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go out and sell drugs and you have to go out and kill people. It doesn't mean that. And I think that, by the way, I do think there are a lot of people out there who seem to look at songs as a guide to life, and it's not necessarily that. Again, you can learn things from songs, and you can take things from songs that you can apply to your life. But a song itself isn't necessarily a guide on how you should live in your real life. It's just a person expressing an idea and trying to create an experience through words and music. And what you get from that experience is what's important. What you take from that experience is what's important, not whether they actually did this thing in real life or not, or that means you have to go do the thing that they did because they said they did this. And it's like, no, that's irrelevant. It's what can I take from this? How can this benefit me, or can it benefit me? And then try to look at it from that perspective. Another example I think is Megan Thee Stallion. She has this song. There's a bunch of songs, I guess, really, but one in particular, she says something like, "I'm gonna make him eat me out while I'm watching anime." Whether or not she actually does that in real life, I mean, let's keep it real. Most of us are never gonna find out anyway, right? Let's just keep it real, Em. Most of us are never gonna find out whether she does it in real life or not. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to us. I'm not sure it matters to her. But it doesn't matter to the listener of the song whether she does it in real life. What you can take from a song like that is this idea of confidence, this idea of being in charge of yourself, this idea of being in control of a situation. That's quite an extreme example of it. But that's a theme from that song, right? And applying that to your own life is, okay, where am I in control and where am I not in control? Where do I need to be in control and where can I relinquish control? These are things I think we need to think about. So it's less about whether or not the thing that's mentioned in the song actually happened or she actually does that. That is so irrelevant. It's what can that song teach you? Even if the thing you get from the song isn't necessarily what the song is actually about. But I do feel like most, if not all, forms of art, songs, movies, books, all of them, comic books, video games, they all have something that's in there. And that thing may even be unintentional, but they all have something in there that you can take from that you can apply to your life in some way. And that to me is the important thing, rather than getting bogged down as to whether or not they actually did it. You know, Beyonce has a song, she says, was it I quit my job or something? Like, she didn't quit no job. Beyonce hasn't had a job for years. No, she didn't quit no job. But, you know, writing a song from the perspective of people who might have had to quit their jobs and, you know, pursue something, why is that a bad thing? You know, why is writing a song from a different person's perspective a bad thing? And another thing as well is that I feel like there's a lot of people out there who seem to want musicians and artists to be relatable. And at the same time, they want them to be, talking about their real life. And there's a point in an artist's career where the two just aren't doing both are just not possible. You know, maybe when you're starting out, you know, your songs you can talk about things that you do in real life, and those same things could be relatable to a lot of people. But there's a point in your career, and not necessarily because an artist becomes super rich. That's not necessarily that. Even artists that don't become super rich, there's a point in your career where, as a musician, as an artist, as a creator, that your life and the way you view life and the way you experience life is going to be so different to the average person, because they're not doing the things that you do, that if you were to only talk about the things that you did in real life, most of the things you talk about will not be relatable. Vast majority of the things you talk about will not be relatable to the average person. So it seems to me that there is a misunderstanding somewhere of what people, or I don't know if misunderstanding is the right word to use, but certainly some kind of unrealistic expectation where people want realism in songs and want these artists to be real and to talk about their real life and talk about things they've done. But they also want it to be relatable. And it's like, you can't have both. You know, it's too far gone for that. They're either going to talk about things that are relatable, but it's not their real life. It might be somebody else's real life, but it's not going to be their real life. Or they're going to be talk about their real. They're going to talk about their real life, but it won't be relatable to you. You know, so I feel like I don't know where the problem lies. It could be any number of things. I mean, like I say, there are people out there who do try to convince you that the things they talk about is their actual real life in their songs, and they actually do these things. They try to convince you of that, and that to me is lame, because it's not. You know what I mean? When you do your interviews, talk about yourself, talk about your art, talk about what you're trying to do. You don't need to convince the world that you're actually a gangster. Like, I don't care. I'm pretty sure most people don't really. Well, maybe they do, and that's why we have this problem. But to me, that's less important. Talk about what your music is trying to do. So yeah, I get there are people who do try to convince you of something that isn't actually real. But for those who aren't, who just want to create music in a way that expresses an idea, a feeling, a thought, you know, whatever it is, if they're not beyond that, going on interviews and trying to say like, oh yeah, I really did quit my job that I haven't had for like 20 years, you know, like if they're not doing that and they're just putting their music out, why is it an issue that the song is about something that the artist didn't actually do? To me, it's just so irrelevant. It's so irrelevant. You know, as an artist, you create, and you create from different inspirations. You create from different points of view. Sometimes you sometimes create from your own points of view, but other times you create from a perspective that isn't your own. That should never be an issue. And artists should be allowed to express themselves in different ways without criticism that they didn't do these things, you know. And maybe then we might get less people trying to convince you of something that never actually happened in their interviews, and maybe we get less people, you know, trying to commit crime so they can get arrested because they really want to convince you that they're a gangster and end up getting shot someplace, because real gangsters do exist. You know, maybe we'd get less of that if we stop putting this unnecessary pressure on people to talk about things that are real and then criticize them when they don't, but then at the same time want them to be relatable when their life is completely different to ours. You know, so yeah, that's my ramble. Let me know what you think of that. Let me know what you think of that. What was that, like 15-ish minutes? But yeah, let me know what you think. I've said that like 3-4 times now. Let me just end this video. Drop any suggestions or recommendations in the comments. Send them through and I see what I can do. Like, share, subscribe, because we're doing this 10-year Get Me fam. We've got more videos on the screen. Check out my other channels as well. Be much appreciated. But that's going to be it for the minute. So guys, until whenever, if ever, peace.